Back in the late 90s, I was an angsty teenager in high school. I hated life, hated school, hated people, and I was always bored out of my mind. We had this crazy and stupid rite of passage during homecoming. Basically, kids from the school would come together to this large park near the high school during homecoming weekend and play Egg Wars. Just think of egging someone's house, except the house is you. And it's an all-out war. It was an old tradition, which meant that the older townsfolk knew about it. This meant that usually people would avoid the park at all costs, unless they wanted to join in on some fun or weren't from town. Anyways, my friend and I were there one night, hiding between a rock and a bush with eggs in hand, ready to attack. Suddenly, this large man, mid-30s or 40s, appears behind us, crouching. He looked like he was a veteran with a green cap, a white t-shirt, and camo pants. All he said was, "Hey guys, I got some eggs if you need some." Obviously, my friend and I were fully prepared with dozens of eggs, so we told him that we were just fine, and that we were stocked and loaded. He said okay, and if you need some, come to the washroom, and left us in peace, heading to the washrooms. The public washrooms were a square building with men's on one side and women's on the other side. It was a basic public washroom in any campground or large park. A few minutes passed and we didn't see anyone from our spot, so my friend decided to change our location. Me, not wanting to move around and possibly get spotted and egged, said it's better to wait it out here. But my friend, being the more active of the two of us, wouldn't have it. He wanted action and he was gonna get some. After some small bickering, we decided to separate. He said he was going to go west to camp around the swings, and told me that I could join him after I stopped being so sleazy. After he left, I got bored quite quickly and remembered that weirdo that went to the washroom. I hadn't seen him since he left to the washroom, and was quite curious about his character, so I snuck up quietly to a tree surrounded by shrubs near the washroom. I was out of sight, but I could see everything that entered and exited. The first thing that I noticed was just how dark it was outside. There were no lights on, which was strange, because the public washrooms always had lights on for both the men and women's entrances. But that night, for some odd reason, the lights were turned off. Not only that, but it was deathly quiet. There were no bugs creaking and no birds chirping. It was just me breathing. It was strange being there, almost surreal. I was just about to leave when the weirdo sticks his head out of the washroom and looks around. After a few minutes, he shoves his head back in the washroom, but only a few minutes after that, he stepped outside and walked around the perimeter. I began sweating. It was a public washroom, and I had the right to be there. There should be nothing I have to be worried about. But something just didn't feel right. I felt like I wasn't supposed to be there. He walked back in the washroom, only to peek his head out again. He ended up doing this over and over and over again. I don't know what his deal was, but he was acting extremely suspicious. After the 5th or 6th time of doing this, he walked out of the men's washroom with a needle in his hand and walked to the women's washroom. At this point, I was feeling extremely uncomfortable. I didn't know what he was doing, and I didn't know what I should be doing. I regretted wandering down here just to spy on a weirdo. I decided I had seen enough and left quickly and quietly, as fast as my nimble legs could go. I was so afraid that if I made a sound, he would come barging out of the women's washroom and begin chasing after me. As I ran, I swear I could only hear my heartbeat. I was listening intently to make sure I was making it out alive. I met up with my friend and hesitated on telling him what happened. I doubted that he would believe me. I mean, who in the right mind would follow some weirdo and spy on him? Wouldn't that make me just as weird as he was? Nothing happened that day, and I didn't report anything to the police either. Looking back, I feel lucky that nothing ever came out of it, because thinking back to that scene, I could feel my gut telling me that something was terribly wrong here. And honestly, I don't think I could ever get that feeling out of me.